Welcome, I'm Maggie John, and this is Huntley Hope. Surprisingly, 1 in 6 couples have issues relating to infertility right here in Canada. It crosses all age groups and ethnicities. Today's program features a family whose first attempt at adoption went heartbreakingly wrong. Thankfully, that wasn't the end of their story. The music journey of songwriter Daniel Doss is in just a few moments. And closer to home, musician Jacob Moon shares his family's journey with infertility, child sponsorship, and adoption. It all begins right now. Almost everyone probably knows of a couple that has struggled with infertility. A recent study shows that in 1984, the estimated percentage of couples with fertility problems was 5.4%. Now the rate is up to 15.7%. Well, award-winning singer-songwriter Jacob Moon and his wife Allison found out that they were a part of this group in 2010, not knowing that while they grieved the pain that they might never have their own biological child, God was starting another chapter in their family. Welcome, Jacob.
It's good to be here, Maggie.
Tell us about 2010 and hearing that news.
Yeah, that had kind of followed a series of years where we had tried to have kids. We'd been to doctors. We'd had people pray for us. We kind of thought that God was going to answer that prayer of ours. And it had got actually so painful when we heard that news that we just prayed that God would take that desire away, because we'd been praying this repetitive prayer for God to kind of help us realize this dream of having kids, and it felt like he was so far away. It didn't feel like he was hearing that prayer. He wasn't speaking into our distress at the time, and so we weren't sure where to turn, and we were kind of at that place, that liminal place between one thing and another, and we weren't sure where to go.
And Allison, it was hard for her.
Yeah, it was hard. So she would go to church, and there'd be babies being dedicated, and twins, triplets being pushed down the street. And it was all just, it was beautiful, right? Because it's babies. But if it's the thing that you're longing for, it can be a trigger for your own grief sometimes.
How about you? Because I think we always hear a lot about the mother's journey through this, the woman's journey through this, but not necessarily the husband's journey through that.
Yeah, it hit me hard, and I didn't know what I could do, really. I'm a songwriter, so I kind of turned to song and sort of prayed through this song called "End of the Road" about waiting for kids. And finally, this song came about. I just felt really expressed my heart for her, and also my hope for her and for us that it wasn't the end of the road. There was something that God was doing throughout this that maybe we couldn't see, and we were going to find out about in due time. You know.
And that led you to a trip to El Salvador to meet your compassion
That's
child.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Sarah, this little girl, 8-year-old El Salvadorian girl, who we'd been sponsoring through Compassion. And Compassion is a wonderful organization that sponsors kids all over the world in 28 countries. There's about 1.5 million kids sponsored around the world. They've been doing it for 60 years, and doing an incredible job of just making sure these kids are released from poverty in the name of Jesus. And we were excited to meet her because, we had never done that together before. And so while in country, I remember getting off the bus, and there she was, and there we were. And we didn't speak Spanish, and she didn't speak English, so we weren't sure how it was all going to work.
And it was probably surreal just seeing her in person, because you see a lot of pictures. And,
And she's seen pictures of us, and so it was just weird. So we ran to each other, and right away, we didn't need language. It was just, we met through the eyes and through play. And
the universal language of love.
Absolutely, that's right. And she felt like a part of our family, legit felt like a part of our family, and that was surprising to me, I think, that we would have that sense of kinship right away. But it's not surprising. I mean, when you sponsor a child through Compassion, you put their picture on your fridge, you pray for them, you send them notes of encouragement, you tell them, hey, you can do anything through God. It gives you strength, and that's certainly what we did, and that really helped us cement that sense of kinship. But that day was just the thing that changed it for us.
Was it therapeutic as well, just, with everything that you had gone through, and to go on this trip and meet Sarah? Was that kind of healing for both of you?
Oh, it totally was. Yeah, and we didn't see it coming. We thought it would actually be really hard to go and to spend time with kids. We thought, well, that was going to be a bit of a trigger, but actually, it took us out of our sort of suffering and into their world, which includes suffering, but it also includes joy and includes things that she didn't know, but she was giving us a huge gift of inspiration by being with us that day and feeling like a part of our family, you know. So.
And out of that came your song, Sarah.
Yeah, I wrote this song called Sarah on the plane ride home, and I'd written all the music for it in advance, and I didn't know what it was about, but then finally this kind of song came about, and all the words kind of fell like a sheet from the sky in one day, which was kind of cool.
Sarah, the day we came to meet you, just about as sweet as it gets. Little Sarah, standing in the rain, someone pinned your lovely name on your dress, yeah. Sarah, all throughout the day we would need no words to say what it meant. Oh, but Sarah, little did you know that your little smile was so heaven sent. There were tears here falling like the rain upon a dry ground, just like a sleeping baby makes no sound. We were in the darkness with our heads down. Now I don't know what the future holds, ain't got no crystal ball. Maybe sunshine, maybe hard times, oh, we'll never know it all. Maybe the sign we could not see has been there all along. Sarah, you came along like a dream when our dream was gone. Sarah, before you came along, I had music for my song, but no words. Oh, but Sarah, you made me come alive with the sweetest voice that I've ever heard. Now the day breaks, I don't remember all the heartache. Now I know the difference that a day makes. Every time I see that picture of your face, hey! Now I don't know what the future holds, ain't got no crystal ball. Maybe sunshine, maybe hard times, oh, we'll never know it all. Maybe the sign we could not see has been there all along. Sarah, you came along like a dream when our dream was gone. There were tears here falling like the rain upon a dry ground, just like a sleeping baby makes no sound. We were in the darkness with our heads down. With every year that passes by, we're drifting further from the shore. Do we wait it out, or should we bail out? We don't know anymore. All I know is now I see the right in all that's wrong. Sarah, you came along like a dream when it felt like our hearts might be coming apart.
as you shared in the first half of the interview, the struggle with infertility with your wife, Allison, and yourself, and then going on this great trip to El Salvador and meeting Sarah, your compassion child. But when you came back home, you started thinking about possibly adopting. Tell us about that.
I mean, and we thought about adopting from El Salvador, actually. Not Sarah, she's got a family of her own, she's good to go, but we thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could adopt internationally? But we knew that was gonna be a long, possibly 5-year wait, which might not result in an adoption, which I don't think our hearts could handle. So we started the process at home with an agency and just, which involved a lot of things. It involved a lot of questionnaires, interviews, a course that you have to take to become parents. And I always joke with my friends, like, we're the only ones who would take this course, to become parents. You guys didn't have to do this.
We all should take
Maybe
the course,
we should all take the course. Yeah, exactly. We learned a lot, though, and we learned they could be waiting for a long time for a match. And so we thought, well, we'll just hang in there and see what happens. And that's when 9 months later, interestingly enough, 9 months, significant time, we got this call that there was a possible match. This little boy was raised in a foster home in Hamilton, and would we like to go meet him? And so we went up there, up the mountain, and in Hamilton, and there he was in the picture window, this little mop of blonde curls, this little big $1 million smile, and he was just kind of waving at us, and the door opened, his little hand grabbed mine, he pulled me in, to his world.
How'd you just melt? Did
you
just melt at that moment?
Well, yeah, it was overwhelming, right? Because we're meeting everybody. We're meeting the foster family for the first time, and a wonderful Christian couple who've been looking after him since he was born. And we met his little brother, and right there as I'm playing with him on the floor, right on the picture and the television, I saw my name in the bottom left-hand corner. And I was like, that's weird. Because I just met these people, and I said, oh yeah, we were listening to the satellite radio through the television, so they must be playing one of your songs. And they turn up the volume, and it's that song that I was telling you about, End of the Road, about waiting for children, playing at that moment. And that's when, I just looked at my wife with tears in her eyes. We just were like, wow, this is it. This is the moment that God has chosen to speak into all of that unanswered prayer, And I think about that, and I think about when we decided to adopt this little boy and to adopt his little brother a year and a half later. We thought about all the kids who are around the world praying that God would rescue them from poverty, from despair, and how we can be their answer to prayer through that, and through sponsoring them through compassion. And so that's been my kind of mission ever since, is, as well as being a dad, is to see if we can get some of these kids rescued from poverty, because they're praying every day that God would prove that he's real and that he can step into their story and change it. And he changed ours, so we know for a fact that that's what he's in the business of doing.
And now you have 3 kids.
And now we have 3. So get this. So when we adopted Simon, we found out they had a little sister, which I was like, oh man, how far is this going exactly? Like I'm just an independent singer-songwriter. We can't have 8 kids, But we were like, oh, of course, if this little girl needs a soft place to land. And so shortly after that, she came to join her brothers. And so we've got 3 kids, that are separated by maybe a year and a half kind of thing. So it's pretty miraculous, what God has done in our family, and we're thankful every day for that.
Thank you, Jacob.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks. God bless.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. The Bible talks about God being there for the brokenhearted. And I can just imagine Jacob and his wife now looking across their dinner room table and just seeing all these children and knowing that God is there. That it might not make sense at the beginning. I know that they struggled and just questioned God, but now being able to look at these wonderful smiling faces and knowing that they get to provide a home and a future for these children. I have some friends who have lost children in the past, have dealt with infertility, and the question of why is always there. And I don't have the answer either, but I have to trust that God knows, that he has a plan for everything. I'd love to invite you to call our prayer lines if you're struggling also with infertility, 1-866-273-4444. Well, up next, an emotional roller coaster ride for songwriter Daniel Doss that took him from heartbreak to contentment. Here's Moira with that story.
Where is God in life's disappointments? What happens to your faith when nothing makes sense and it all hurts? After a painful struggle with infertility, Daniel Doss and his wife Emily began the arduous process of adoption. Thankfully, he comes to us not from that emotional roller coaster, Daniel, but from Tennessee to tell his story. Was that a big decision to look at adoption after the dream couldn't be?
For sure. It's always a struggle walking through that. You're mourning not being able to have children. And my wife and I mourned at different rates. And the same thing with adoption. Her heart opened to adoption before mine did. And you have a lot of different options when you're going through infertility, from in vitro to adoption to just saying we're not going to have children. And so we felt like God was leading us towards adoption. And once I felt a clear yes, let's go forward, we moved together, forward together. And she was very patient and gracious as we walked through that journey.
College sweethearts, this had always been the dream to have a family. But I'm thankful it's not always this painful for those who choose to adopt. Give us a capsule of that journey, Daniel.
You know, I hear stories that are even more so, but basically we went through several failed adoptions. We felt a little baby boy kick in a birth mother's womb down in Indianapolis, and we had a shower for a baby girl, and that fell through, and multiple other stories like that occurred before we finally made it to our first son.
Okay, well, the most heart-ripping one.
Yeah. It was right
involved the
before.
best Christmas ever to that point.
For sure, and that's often what I'll say. That's was the best Christmas ever. We had our baby boy in a hotel room down in Georgia, and we couldn't leave Georgia, the state. Certain things had to clear first, and we couldn't enter our state because things had to clear legally. So we had to wait, and while we waited, we got a phone call from the birth mother just saying she wanted her baby back. And so legally, we could have fought that in court, but we could not, years from then, look at our baby boy and look him in the eye and tell him what we knew. And so God walked us through that awful moment there, and in a hotel room in Georgia, so far from family. And some family came to visit us during that time, but the worst Christmas day ever, or the best Christmas day ever, turned out to be the worst New Year's Day ever when we took him to a lawyer's office in Atlanta, dropped him off, and drove home, still childless. And that was definitely the darkest point of our lives.
You know, I asked Emily if that huge, heart-ripping denial and disappointment changed her mind, at least briefly, about going further with adoption. She said no. The experience for a whole week with that baby boy of being mom just enhanced her desire to keep going. You did mourn for a couple of months. Then what happened?
Well, we stopped the journey for a couple months and said we're not going to adopt, just to mourn. And then 2 months later, we were living in Chicagoland at the time, and we'd been all over, hours away to find a child. And then all of a sudden, 45 minutes from our house, a little boy was born. And we named him Oliver Emmanuel, and he was just a couple days old when we met him and took him home that day from the hospital. And it was amazing. Manny's what we call him.
Is 7 years
Yes.
old.
He's
And
7.
a delight. I'll just tell you, they're in the green room and full of fun.
They are.
Full of fun. And the story didn't end there.
No, it did not. And our second adoption, Oakley, it wasn't as tumultuous to get there, but every adoption journey is different. And it had some ups and downs as well. And everyone has ups and downs. But it ended with Oakley, and he is amazing as well. And they get along really well. There's a picture of them we have that.
Oh, it's a fabulous family picture.
And so, yeah.
And Oakley's 4 now. And Emily was in the birthing room for his arrival.
She was in there with the birth mother, and I was in the hospital room just waiting. And so we got to meet him right when he was born. It was beautiful.
We've caught you here today on a family adventure. It's just so wonderful to share your joy. But who was God in the waiting room, Daniel?
We struggled. I struggled, she struggled, and you know, there are moments where you draw near to him, and there are moments where he just feels far. And I think the aftermath, we had a lot of emotions to sort through, and it took us a while. You know, it wasn't immediate. Emily noticed that I didn't really, in the first couple months, I tended to make myself more busy because we'd had so many adoptions fall through that I was afraid of connecting a bit with Manny in the first couple months. And so as I was kind of wrestling through the aftermath of what had occurred up until there, I was still connecting with him, and we, our family bond is amazing. We're just trying to enjoy the journey as our family motto.
I love your family values. I'm just going to throw out a couple of them. The journey is the destination.
Yeah.
These are the good old days.
Yes, yes. You know, I tend to always be thinking about the future and think down the road and what's coming up and what do we not have yet, or what are we supposed to be getting done. And those mottos kind of just help us relax a little. You know, Paul said, godliness with contentment is great gain. And so for a few years, I've just been kind of letting that simmer in my heart and become a part of who we are as a family. And, you know, we only have the boys for 10, 15 years, and then they're off to college or off somewhere else they're supposed to be, you know. But, you know, so we only have them for a short amount of time, and we want to savor this and realize that these are the days that we're going to look back on, they're going to look back on, and we'd give $1 million just to spend one of these days over. So why not enjoy it and savor it in the moment now?
Fun to see the band is forming. Not the one we're going to be talking about in a minute, but your family band, the music is in them, and I watched on your phone the all together. It's just too fun. Manny on the drums. I love that you know in your heart, and you tell anyone who will listen, this isn't plan B.
No, not at all. You know, for our dreams it may have been, for what we wanted from the beginning, you know, but then all of a sudden it's like, you know, God takes our fake pearls and gives us real ones. You know, when I see the picture of our family, it scares me to think that our dreams could have worked out, because I would have never met Manny and Oakley. And so I just, every day I look in their eyes and I see the grace and mercy of God for knowing what's best for us. And it doesn't always work out, though. It doesn't always work out. You know, there are things in this world where we still are going to scratch our heads and wonder, God, what were you doing there? And we may not know until the age to come, until heaven. And so actually this song, Stained Glass Windows, I'm going to share, the bridge I added, because that is a reality. Because when I can't stop asking why, when I can't see the other side, he keeps loving us. When our faith still struggles, even though we see resolution, I see resolution every day in my boys' eyes. But there's some things I still don't get. But we can trust in him because he gives us the past and his faithfulness. We can trust him in the future.
God's plan continues no matter what the disappointments are.
For sure.
He's taking us where he wants us to. I love that your dad suggested Praise the King after 9 years of not doing an album, and this is marvelous. You know, who's the Butterfly Kisses guy? You've got...
Oh yeah, Bob Carlisle, that's right.
There you go.
Yeah.
You've got that raspy, soulful voice. Oh, I'm so glad we're going to hear it. And Daniel, it was your album 9 years ago that I've taken these lyrics from. Hold on, a great message for someone in the waiting room. And we're all waiting for something, right? Here's what Daniel wrote. The pain, and this is God's message to us. The pain is beating down so faithfully, but my love is more faithful. You will see. The winds will show no mercy for your face, but your heart is safe, secure inside my grace. You know what? If you need some encouragement to keep holding on, remember that our prayer lines are always available. Prayer makes such a difference. And when we come back, oh, you're going to want to listen to the lyrics. This is your story and song, Daniel, coming right up. Stained Glass Windows.
But today I'm sinking low. Can your hand reach down to me and pull me up once more? All the dreams I had are shattered, oh, scattered on the floor. The last time you picked up the pieces and helped me dream some more. 'Cause we're making stained glass windows, every piece a different shade. Oh, broken and then put together like a big mistake. But when the light shines through, the colors form a tapestry, 100 different images of how you keep loving me. Shines through, the colors form a tapestry, 100 different images of how, oh, you keep loving me. When I can't stop asking why, when I can't see the other side, oh, oh, you keep loving me. And I know someday I'll see. Oh Lord, help me trust and believe. Cause when the light shines through, the colors form a tapestry. Every piece a different shade. Oh, broken and then put together like a big mistake. Oh, but when the light shines through, the colors form a tapestry, 100 different images of how. Oh, but when the light shines through, the colors form a tapestry, yeah. 100 different images of how you keep on, you never stop loving me. Oh,
Absolutely beautiful. We're all pieces of that stained glass window put together, and God's light continues to shine through. I remember Moira Brown saying to me once, we're all brushstrokes on a larger canvas, a larger masterpiece, and one day we'll be able to stand back in heaven and see how it all fit together. I hope that's an encouragement to you today. Again, if you need prayer, call our prayer lines, 1-866-273-4444. To learn more about this program, you can visit 100huntley.com. Thanks for joining us today on Huntley Hope. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2.